Hello guys, welcome back to this channel and thanks for viewing this video. Today we are going to discuss on JDesktopPane, which is a Java GUI class that is used to create multi-document applications. So a multi-document application can have many windows included in it. So it is done by making the content pane in the main window as an instance of the JDesktopPane class or a subclass. And internal windows are instances of JInterналFrame to the JDesktopPane instance, so that the internal windows are the instances of the JInternalFrames or its subclasses. So these are all details. So I'm going to show you how to actually use that JDesktopPane. So first of all, what are we going to do here in the MyFrame class? I have the MyFrame class and the test app class, which is my main class here, but I'm going to write most of my code in the MyFrame class. So I will first say container pane get content pane. So this is going to make sure that I'm going to access, the content pane of the frame. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an internal class. Okay. So I'll simply come down here and say class, and I will call this class DesktopPane, and this is going to extend the JDesktopPane class. So open and close the curly braces. I'm going to import the JDesktopPane class here. So that's it. So now we're going to start by declaring some variables. So I will first start by declaring the number of frame. So I'll say number underscore frames. And here I will say 4, semicolon. I'll also declare the value X, which is going to determine the X axis. So I'll say 50. I'll also declare the Y axis. This is for the positioning of the various internal frames. And after doing that, I can also create a method that I will call this method show desktop, like that. And this method must accept, objects of type DesktopPane. Okay, DesktopPane is the name of the internal class that we have created here. And I'll say DP for DesktopPane, open and close the curly braces like this. So inside I will need to write a for loop statement. So for I equal to 0, semicolon, I is less than the number of frames, so the number underscore frames, semicolon, then I'm going to increment the value of I. So I'll open and close the curly braces. So in the body of the for loop, I need to use the JInternalFrame class. So I'm going to say JInternalFrame. I'll call this frame like this. Assignment operator, JInternal. Like this. So I need to import the JInternalFrame. That's it, like this. And in here, I'm going to pass some parameters. So the first one is going to be the title given to the internal frame. So I will say frame. Then I will concatenate that with the number of that internal frame, because I said number of frames 4. So if it's frame number 2, so it's going to say frame 2. And inside, I'm going to pass some Boolean values. So all of them are going to be true. Then semicolon here as usual. So what I'm going to do is that I will now set that frame on the that internal frame on the frame. Okay, so here what we're doing is that we are creating internal frames that would appear on this main frame, and we are using this particular show desktop method to do that. So frame here is actually this internal frame here. So I'm going to call it internal underscore frame, so that here I'll write internal underscore frame as well. And I'll say set bounds. So I'll use the x-axis, the integer variable we created at the beginning, and I can actually work on the size, the width, and the height of these particular internal frames. So that's it. So now if I want to output these internal frames what should I do? So let me come to the main frame here. So I'm going to declare an object of type desktop pane. I will create it. So these are going to be internal frames. So I will say desktop pane. I'll call it desktop pane like this. Assignment operator, desktop pane. Open and close the brackets. Okay, so here I have container pane, get content pane. So this is going to make sure that I'm having access to the content pane. And after that, I need to add this particular object, desktop pane, to the mainframe's content pane. So I'm going to say pane that add, and inside the brackets, I'll simply say desktop pane like this. So to make things simple, I'm going to comment this line of code, the set layout. So I'm going to leave the default layout, but here I'm going to precise that we're going to use the border layout to actually place this particular internal frames. So let me import the border layout, and here center must be all caps. Okay, so if I run, nothing will show because I still would need to use this show desktop method. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say desktop pane that show desktop, and inside I'll pass desktop pane like this. So now let me run. So when I run, nothing is showing because we need to come down here and say that these internal frames need to be visible. So I'll say internal underscore frame that set visible true. So just like we do with the normal frames. Now, let me also increment the value of the y-axis by 100. So here I will say 100 like this, then semicolon. So the next thing we can do is to actually add a DesktopPane instance to the frame. So we say add frame. So that will be internal underscore frame. So now when I run, you can see the various internal frames shown because I said the number of frames should be equal to 4 here. So if I increase the size, the width of these internal frames, this is what will happen. So if I can just tell you what I'm doing here is that this main class, this constructor is used to actually create the main frame. And this inner class here that I call DesktopPane is extending a JDesktopPane, and I'm using it to create internal frames. So this is actually the method that I'm using, and I have a for loop statement that is allowing me to create the number of panes that I have defined here. Okay, so for int I equals 0, I less than the number of frames, and then all of that. So I'm also using the J internal frame to actually create these internal frames, and here I'm adding the internal frame that needs to be passed as a parameter to I'm adding the internal frame to actually this DesktopPane frame, and here I'm saying set visible, and I am incrementing the value of y so that each internal frame is going to be placed one after the other from top to bottom. So now what will happen if, as you can see, when I run, I'm only having these frames like this. Nothing is showing, on these internal frames. So what I want to show you is that what if I want to write some text to these frames? I need to use the class called container as what we do with the main frame. So I would say container and internal underscore pane. So that's the name I have chosen to give. And I will say internal underscore frame that get content pane. And so this is going to make sure that we are able to access to the content pane of the internal frame. So after I have done that, what I'm going to do is to say internal underscore pane that add. So I'm going to add a label to this internal frame. So I'm going to say new JLabel, and I'll simply say this is an internal pane, an internal frame pane. I have to import the JLabel class. So now when I run, you will see that I'm having some text showing. Okay, so you can do that even if you want to add a button, for example, to your pane. What you can do is to simply copy like this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to say, instead of J label, I'll say new J button. I'll say click here as a text, and when I run, so now you can see it's the button that is showing. Okay, all of this is because of the layout being applied on these internal frames. You will see that if I say internal underscore frame, that's set layout, new flow layout, and then run. So now you can see the text and then the button showing on these various internal frames. So when you run, this is how it's showing. So guys, this is what I wanted to show you about JDesktop class. I hope this video was informative, and please don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more videos like this one. Let's meet in the next one.